I'm Jenny from Heart of a Mother. Today I'd like to share with you about my favorite people in the whole wide world, besides my husband, and that's my two teenagers. My oldest two kids are currently 15 and 18, and I just love them to pieces. They are the most amazing people, and I'm in awe of them every day. And that being said, I thought I would share with you some things I've learned about homeschooling teenagers, about parenting them really. But as homeschoolers, we can apply these things to our daily lives with teenagers, right? And they are different than parenting babies or toddlers or elementary school kids or even tweens, although some of these things are important for tweens too. And so I thought I would share with you some ideas and some things that I've noticed as I've been homeschooling my teenagers that have worked and that have been incredibly beneficial to make a priority in our lives. The first one, everybody can probably guess, is exercise and food. Their bodies are growing and changing in amazing ways, and they need exercise. They need the exercise to balance out their hormones, I promise you. So whatever it is that you can do to get your teenagers moving will help with everything else in their life. It'll help with their focus, it'll help with their eating, it will help with their sleeping, it will help with their attitudes. Maybe that's just walking around the block once a day, maybe it's going for a run, maybe it's putting weights in the garage, signing them up for sports or a dance class, or whatever it is that you can do to help your teenagers get moving and get exercise is helpful. I once heard a talk, I think it was by Mary Ellen Barrett, who talked about getting a load of rocks and having kids move it from one corner of the yard to the other corner of the yard just to have some physical labor and exercise. Anything works. Anything that you can do to have those kids work out some of their energy through physical labor, physical exercise will balance out so much in their lives. And that includes their food and their intake. They eat a lot, or at least they go in spurts, and they'll eat a lot for a while and then they won't, and then they will, and then they won't. You can never predict it. There's no routine. But I talk to my kids, my teenagers, about what types of foods they feel they need. We talk about healthy eating. We talk about snacking and meals. It's a really great time to help them take ownership of their eating, even though I'm still preparing meals and buying groceries and those things. My teenagers make their own breakfasts and lunches, and I encourage them to explore, healthy things that they can make, and I buy those weird ingredients to help them do that. I have a snack box for each one of them on a very top shelf of the pantry that has teenager snacks that are different than the goldfish and the pretzels I give to my little kids. So food is important, exercise is important. They need that to be a significant part of their lives just because of their bodies. Okay, secondly, involve them in decisions that you're making about them and for the family. Bounce ideas off of them. If you're debating something, get their input. You're still the parent and you still get to decide, but by involving them in the conversation and in the decision, they will buy into whatever your decision is more willingly. Not always, sometimes they completely disagree with you, and that's just part of life, but by accepting their input and listening to them and asking for their input, you really build a lot of goodwill with your teenagers and make them feel like you include them as a more mature part of the family. They're not the little kids anymore. They get to say, and that goes for homeschooling, that goes for curriculum. I talk to my kids at all ages about what they like about school, what they don't like about school, but my teenagers get to make some significant decisions about what books they're going to read for literature, about what classes they might want to take, what sciences they're interested in. I'm gonna consult them and I'm gonna involve them in those decisions, especially in high school. Okay, third is give them opportunities for independence. If you can send them down the road to the neighbor's house to drop something off, if you can drop them off instead of going inside when they're going to an event, if you can ask them to research something for you online, those opportunities for independence will also help them feel like you're on their side. that you trust them and you believe in them. Now, of course, you have to do this in corresponding level of their maturity, right? And what they can handle and what would be appropriate. But as my kids get into middle school and moving into high school, I try to find opportunities that I'm comfortable with and that I can trust them with to be independent and to do things on their own when I wouldn't otherwise, right? And as homeschoolers, this is especially hard because they're with us from the time they're itty bitty. If you've been doing this the whole time, it's hard to let go of that independence a little bit, of that dependence. But the independence and the opportunities for it are fabulous life lessons that make them more confident, that make them more well-rounded, and improve your relationship with them as well. Okay, fourth is give them more responsibility. With privileges comes responsibility. We say that all the time in our house. So they need to be doing chores in their own laundry. Maybe they need a job. They need to have responsibility. They need to babysit if you've got little kids and they're trustworthy. They need to have extra chores that are bigger than what they used to do as little kids or as middle school kids. As they get into those teenage years, they need to be handed more. More needs to be expected of them, and they will rise to the occasion in most circumstances if you do it in a gradual, appropriate way. So I find that giving my teenagers more responsibility helps them learn life lessons. When my oldest was getting into high school and I reflected on what are some of the life lessons that she needs to learn, one of the things that stood out to me was she needs to learn what to do when she messes up and fails. Because I was always there and we prevented any kind of problems growing up. We always helped when she needed help and did not let her just kind of out there hanging on her own. And so there were very few opportunities where she just completely messed up and it was a disaster and there wasn't much that could be done. But I prayed for guidance and for opportunities in high school for her to have that experience, and she has now, through just lots of different things. But they need that. So the more responsibility we can give them in a way that we're comfortable that if they completely drop the ball and they completely mess up, then whatever the consequence is acceptable. Like if they're doing their own laundry and they have no clothes so they can't go with us to wherever we're going, that's what happens. They don't get to go to their activity because they didn't clean their equipment, then that's what happens. Those are life lessons that they need and that we shouldn't cover for them anymore when they're teenagers. Okay, the last thing is another one of those things that's hard as homeschool moms because we are their teachers and we are their primary educators, and that is as it should be. But they need other adults in their lives besides mom and dad. I have found so much value in this with my teenagers, especially my son. Definitely with my daughter too, but with my son especially. They need another teacher or coach or youth group leader or whoever it is, another mentor. They need to know other adults that are in a supervisory or authoritative role over them. And if we're just homeschooling them at home, they get mom and dad and they don't learn how to respond to another adult, right? Maybe family members, grandparents, but not in the same way as if they're in a class or on a team. Online classes count for that. You can do it that way. Even those recorded classes, they still have a different teacher, right? They still are maybe not interacting with them, but they're still having to receive the way other adults operate. Sports and other extracurriculars are great for this because they're going to have a chaperone or someone who's leading, church youth groups, anything that you can think of to give your kids other adults that are in charge of them, and start thinking about that in middle school before they become teenagers so that it can be helpful. And as I said, it's really helped my son significantly to have other teachers besides me, especially men, and to hear things about especially our faith through that lens and through someone else besides just mom said so. Has been really valuable, and I've seen the difference in those circumstances and the benefits from those. So those are my tips for homeschooling teens. They need exercise and food. Involve them in decisions and discussions. Give them independence and find opportunities for them to be independent. Give them responsibilities and make sure that they have opportunities to fail through that, and then find other adults that can be other teachers and instructors for them so that they have that experience as well. I think those are all key things that have helped my teenagers become my favorite people and become so wonderful as they are. They are not perfect. I don't want to give that impression. Nobody is perfect, and my teenagers definitely have their days and moments and weeks. But I admire them a lot for a lot of things, and I can see that these tips have impacted that in a positive way. So I hope that helps. Teenagers are not as scary as everybody says, but they do take a different kind of parenting, a different kind of homeschooling, a different approach. And I hope that some of these will help your family. Thank you for watching. Please visit me at heartofamother.net for more ways to connect with me and more resources available. And we will be back next time. Bless your heart.